Sports Show. Thanks for staying with us. We're having a little bit of an argument here on the panel. We don't normally have that about what questions can we direct to our next guest, because there's a fair bit happening in golf at the moment. But Gary, as always, good enough to give us his time. Gary Thompson joins us. Gary, how are you?
Very well, thank you.
Now, Baz wants to talk about the Simpson Cup. I want to know about Greg Norman. Britt, what do you want to know about?
I want to know about Bob Sheeran.
There you go.
I want to know the stories.
No one wants to know about you, mate. That's the disturbing part. Let's start with the Simpson Cup, mate, because the Simpson Cup did get underway last week.
No, 2 weeks in
2 weeks
now.
ago, sorry.
2 weeks in, yeah.
Yep.
It's, well, obviously early days, but there's 4 undefeated sides, two wins and 2 with 1.5 wins. Yeah. And there's 3 teams, including Glenelg, with no wins. So we're pushing it uphill at this stage.
You've had the tough part of the draw, though, Glenelg.
Well,
Glenelg played 2 really good teams. 2
very close losses, but
that's right.
They're hard work. They're not good for my heart, watching those sort of close losses.
Well, I don't think the game is very good for your heart anyway, Darkie. Watching it, especially if you've got an interest in it like you have and like I have.
Yeah.
Have you got an opinion on who's looking early in the season like they might take the cup out?
Well, I mean, Kuyonga reigning champion, and they're going to be strong. Vines have recruited really well with Sam Earl coming into their team. Very good player. Royal Adelaide have recruited this year. Got a couple of ex-state players back into their team. So, they're 3 of the undefeated sides at this stage. Tea Tree Gully have been a surprise packet so far because they came in for the first time this year in a number of years, and they've also had a win and a half. So we play them at Glenelg this week. So it's a must-win for us. We'd start favourite purely and simply because of home course, but we're still expecting a really tight game. And then there's a really big game this week with Grange and Royal Adelaide. Both teams undefeated, so whoever wins that's virtually going to cement their place in the semi-final. So, because it's so quick, it's 8 weeks and it's 7 games.
That can go very
7
quickly.
games and it's all over. So and then semi-final, final. So if you get to 3 wins your first 3 games, you're virtually assured of making at least a semi-final.
Yeah, you're pretty close, aren't you? That's right.
But there'll be more play out this week, so we'll have more idea.
Okay, still a little early to go out on the limb just yet.
It is.
That's what we say. I mean, Glenelg might be sitting, they're sitting 3rd to bottom at the minute without a win. But their 2 games have been against Grange and Kuyonga. So they've played. They've got some roadkill not roadkill, I shouldn't say that but there are teams that are not travelling all that well.
It's an interesting thing, and I'm certainly backing off saying that because just diverting a little bit, but last week the South Australian amateur team went away and they changed it this year. They had 4 men, 4 women in the side, 4 girls, women in the side, and so they had a combined, and they also had a men's and a women's separate competition. But the guys won the national championship for the first time in 39 years.
It's been a great performance.
But the day before the practice round, they interviewed one of the New South Wales guys, and he said, we've got South Australia tomorrow morning, we'll blow them away, and then we play Queensland in the afternoon.
Right. Yeah.
So,
don't you love that, though? And then you go and get it.
It was fantastic. And then our guys beat New South Wales and then Victoria on the one day, which is the first time it's ever happened in South Australia's history.
It's a brilliant
in golf.
performance.
So, just fantastic.
Brilliant performance by... Golf's amazing at the minute. Minjee Lee winning for the 7th time on the LPGA. We've got Cameron Smith winning big tournaments over there. Golf's in a really healthy position.
For Australia, it is, absolutely. And the young lad that I brought in last year, a lot of viewers will remember, Jack Buchanan.
Jack.
He leaves today for a 10-week tour to play in the British Amateur, hopefully the British Open, but it'd be unlikely. He has to win a couple of events to get into it. He's playing in the Scottish Open. He's playing in the European Amateur in Spain, and then going to America for the US Amateur. I mean, it's just a trip of a lifetime, and that's unfortunately it's bad for us because we lose him as our number 1 player.
Good for us.
But
good for the Vines.
It's fantastic for him and fantastic for young kids coming up through golf.
Exactly. And are you super proud of that standard that you have in your tournament?
Absolutely.
And it leads on to those.
Look, we've got some fantastic kids. I mean, last week, for instance, like Simpson Cup 7 players and Bonner Cup is 7 players. We had 2 13-year-olds and a 14-year-old playing in our side. Kuyonga have got a 14-year-old playing Simpson Cup. Josh Grundle.
Not sure how old Charlie is. How old's Charlie? Charlie Nobbs?
Probably 15. Yep.
Played number 1 for the Vines.
In the state side.
Number 1. Played number 1, yeah.
And I think, honestly, it's an absolute credit to Adrian Wickstein, who's taken over the main coaching role for Golf Australia SA Division.
Yeah.
And what he's doing, and I think the National Championship, see, they've gone back to 4 players instead of 7. We've got the depth at the top, but we haven't had the depth to beat New South Wales and Victoria in the past because they're top 7.
Numbers too.
We can hold our own at the top 4, but our next 3 aren't. They're probably a shot off the pace.
Isn't it? Bigger population, so more players.
Just a shot off the pace, and it's so close.
Terrific result for the state on the weekend. That was a great result.
Brilliant.
No doubt about that.
Absolutely brilliant.
Fantastic.
Yeah. Mate, just quickly, I want to get it in.
Yeah.
Greg Norman, of course, the Saudi Arabia-backed tournament that he's trying to break away from. There's an article that broke out this week that Jack Nicholson was offered 141 million Australian to front it before they offered it to Norman, and he turned it down. Norman's taken it on and it's getting a bit of flack on the side. Do we admire? Do we admire Jack for turning down the offer? Firstly, to break away.
But that is the sort of person that we've always been led to believe that Jack Nicklaus is.
Yeah.
Just an absolute ornament to the game. You never saw him. You never saw him do anything wrong on a golf course, and he never gave up. He tried all the time and just gave so much back to the game. Where, I think one of Greg's best mates in the past, Wayne Grady, came out this week and said he should hang his head in shame, and I'm on Grady's side.
And Grady's a player who should be listened to as well, by the way.
Absolutely.
You're talking about a
Norman tried
champion.
to get, which would have been something really special for golf, late 80s, early 90s, a world tour. Yeah. And he was going to take the top 70, 72 players, I think it was, around the world for about 20 tournaments. Now, it would have been brilliant for Australia because we would have had 2 tournaments with the best players in the world playing. But then, the US Golf Association or PGA Tour turned it down, and I think he's been sour grapes ever since. And I think it's
his
sort of
first
something
concept was better, though, Dar. His first concept, that first idea he had, was better than this idea.
No question. This is just sour grapes. It's a way to, he's getting money for it. He's just trying to undermine the PGA Tour.
Yeah, mate, we've got to go. I'll leave you with Nicholson's comment on it was that I have to stay with the PGA Tour. I helped start the PGA Tour. Yeah. So he's saying, that's where my love is. So always appreciate your time, Gary. I know you're busy. We'll get you in next week, mate, to get an update on what is happening in the golf world. Stay with us. Still plenty to come on the show.